This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Today's video is brought to you by Policygenius. In just a minute, I'm going to talk about an offer exclusive to you and my audience that I really think will benefit you. So before I get to that, though, I want to preface what I'm going to talk about a little bit, and that is the inexplicable manner with which Republicans have handled the inexplicable manner with which the Republicans have not handled the coronavirus pandemic. The reliance upon politics rather than the protection of those under their care. People who are ostensibly elected to be leaders, and instead of leading, instead of making the hard decisions, they rely upon jingoistic nonsense, appeals to my freedom, rather than the good of people in general, the community at large. And none worse than Ron DeSantis. He was on Tucker the other day, and I'm going to play a clip from that, and then we're going to get into a little bit of history. We're going to get into some of the data, and then we're going to talk about some polling. Before I get to all of that, though, here's a word from our sponsor today, Policygenius. I hate to admit it, but I tend to procrastinate. It's kind of a feature of my personality, especially if it's something that doesn't need to get done. Figuring out why the one light in the living room won't turn on? Ugh. Investigate the car clicking sound? Ugh. Decipher my best life insurance options? Ugh. While they won't fix your electrical or automotive, Policygenius will solve your life insurance puzzle. Quick. And here's why life insurance is so important. When you're done here, life insurance provides a tax-free chunk of cash for your loved ones, so they aren't stuck with your unpaid bills or no money to cover them in your stead. Policygenius is not merely some insurance outfit, but an insurance marketplace that offers rates from all the top life insurance companies. They spell out your options in ordinary terms, and then you can buy a policy right on their site. Eligible applicants will get covered in as little as a week with Policygenius's award-winning options, and they won't charge you any fees. Go to policygenius.com/Dollemore to get started today with a free quote and set on a track of taking care of your loved ones. Also, did you know that to adequately provide for a family, people typically need 10 times the life insurance coverage that is available through their employer? And as you get older, i.e., the more you procrastinate, the more life insurance costs. So getting covered ASAP solidifies your rate as is. Just think about the savings over the course of a 10 or 20-year policy. It's services and savings like these that just recently earned Policygenius a #1 rating from Forbes. And those guys over there are great with planning and with money. So seriously, stop messing around and go to policygenius.com/Dollemore to get started today. Policygenius, because when it comes to insurance, it's sure nice to get it done and get it done right. So Ron DeSantis has been making the rounds on conservative media, making the case, I guess, for why he's doing nothing while people die en masse in his state, while thousands of kids, 6,000 kids, are in quarantine, not able to go to school because of his insane, inexplicable ban on mask mandates in the classroom. A mitigation method that works, proven to work. We watched the curve be pressed down, squashed in certain areas in the country who aren't faketriots or led by faketriots. I want to get to this clip. It is remarkable from just the other day. The galaxy brain misunderstanding, lack of understanding of history. Watch this.
And there's no statistical difference in results from COVID as a result of this. And so our view is you shouldn't have government forcing kindergartners to wear masks for 8 hours a day. That should be a decision for the parent. And so parents in Florida have the ability to make that choice. Joe Biden and the White House, they think the federal government should force masks on kindergartners for 8 hours a day when they admit they do not know the long-term consequences of doing so.
And they're also saying they don't care what your doctor's recommendation is. So when the smoke clears from all of this stuff at some point, how are they going to defend abortion? It's no longer your body, your choice. It's no longer between you and your doctor. They've kind of given up the two pillars of their medical policy, haven't they?
They are basically saying that we are all just subservient to medical authoritarianism. Whatever they think needs to be done, we have to submit to it. It's probably, Tucker, the most significant threat to freedom in my lifetime, certainly since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
I mean, one of the dumbest elected officials, maybe in the history of the Republican Party, and that's saying something. This is medical authoritarianism to prevent the spread of a communicable airborne disease? Is medical authoritarianism? It's medical authoritarianism, Tucker. And then most absurd of all, showing his absolute ignorance, stupidity about history, that the most significant threat to freedom in my lifetime, certainly since the fall of the Berlin Wall, to wear a mask, to wear a piece of cloth designed to filter particulate matter that could infect you with a deadly virus. Since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And to demonstrate how stupid Ron DeSantis and his pal there, Tucker Carlson, are, and to demonstrate what patriots they are, because these people wrap themselves in the flag. These people literally hug the flag. They hold up their Bibles. It's not my Bible, it's a Bible. All of this is political theater for them, even though there are real lives at risk. And to demonstrate just how little they know and how stupid they are about this, is especially about history and the patriots that they admire. They act like they'd be on the front lines of the Revolutionary War, leading the charge against the British. George Washington himself quarantined during an outbreak of smallpox. I'm going to read something from the Mount Vernon Historical website. In the early years of the American Revolution, George Washington faced an invisible killer that he had once battled as a teenager. While the earlier fight had threatened only his life, at stake in this confrontation were thousands, including military and civilian alike. The continued viability of Washington's army and the success of the war for independence from Britain. Within days of taking command of the army at Cambridge, Massachusetts, during the summer of 1775, Washington wrote to assure the president of the Congressional Congress that he had been particularly attentive to the least symptoms of the smallpox, quarantining anyone suspected of having the disease in a special hospital. Washington further promised that he would, quote, continue the utmost vigilance against this most dangerous enemy. Ron DeSantis is no George Washington. Tucker Carlson is no George Washington. Yet they act like they are. Yet they pretend they play the game of a patriot, failing to protect people who are in danger, failing to protect people who are immunocompromised and can't get the vaccine, failing to protect our children, while screaming about threats to freedom. Like I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to read from this Axios article very briefly, 2 paragraphs, nearly 6,000 students in quarantine or isolation in Florida school district. In one school district, nearly 6,000 children are in quarantine because of either infection or exposure to someone who is infected. Nearly 6,000 students and over 300 staff members tested positive or have been exposed to COVID-19 in a Florida school district, officials announced Monday. The alarming number of people in quarantine or isolation has prompted an emergency board meeting at Hillsborough County Public Schools, the 7th largest district in the nation. While he ignores the situation.
Oh, we're doing a fine job here. Ron DeSantis.
Look at some of these. Just the chart, just the visuals here are remarkable. We're seeing infection rates, new reported cases that are double to triple what they've been in the past. Now, the dark red line is the daily average, but look at these spikes that run up, the new cases, 56, 60,000 new cases every single day. More troubling are these other numbers. Hospitalizations. Look at that line. Over 15,000 people hospitalized in just the state of Florida. Not our largest state, not our most populous state. And Ron DeSantis wants to whine and act like a patriot because of the threats to freedom. Which leads me to where we are today, with polling numbers that are not looking good. I'm trying to find my notes here. Not looking good for Ron DeSantis. A recent poll by Axios Ipsos, people oppose the way Ron DeSantis is handling this. Here's the chart. Look at this chart. Support for state and local government mask requirements is strong, but few say it's been required in the last few weeks. 2/3, 64% support their state or local government requiring masks to be worn in all public places. However, there are significant partisan differences, with the vast majority of Democrats, 88%, and less than half of Republicans, 40%, in favor of state or local mask mandates. Support for state or local mask support for state and local mask requirements also varies based on where people live. Those living in urban areas sitting at about 71%, and those living in rural areas at about 49%. So people, they agree, they understand that mask mandates are important, and they oppose the prevention of said mask mandates. So you could stop anytime. Tucker Carlson, Ron DeSantis acting like we're the patriots, defenders of freedom. When you're acting out of step with the men from our history who you laud like they're deities. Do what George Washington did. Quarantine when necessary. Issue public health orders that keep people safe. And for the rest of everybody, if you'd like to stop Ron DeSantis in his tracks from his ascendancy to the presidency, then you defeat him at the polls in 2022 when he runs for re-election in Florida. Because if he can't even win his own home state in a gubernatorial contest, he's certainly not going to win the country to be president of the United States. It's on Florida to make this happen.